See you, Dave.
Okay. So I was going to delegate this to Nicole, but I don't think she'll ever speak to me again if I did. So I'll talk you through our project. So as is all about embedding maths into apprenticeships. Can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Yep. Brilliant. Okay. So the reason we chose this project was because at our last Ofsted inspection, one of our action points was to ensure that we efficiently documented the embedding of functional skills during the apprentice's qualification. Basically, what they said was we were great at identifying it, but absolutely rubbish at logging it. So that's the sort of our rationale for our project. So, as I said, the purpose of this project is to help our apprentices to identify where maths is naturally embedded within the workplace. And our aim is to support apprentices and teach them how to log this evidence to meet the required Ofsted criteria. What we wanted to do something a little bit different. Instead of just getting them to write down everything, we've decided to come up with the idea of producing videos of the learner at work, which we can then sit and discuss with them about where they feel maths is actually happening during their work day. And this will also help us to meet the obviously the Ofsted requirements. So as I said, we're going to be using video evidence of the apprentice at work and within their workplace environment. So the plan was to create short 5-minute videos and use these in our teaching. We're also looking at a lot of learner involvement as well within this project. So we're going to be creating the first video, and then we're actually going to get the learners to then produce the others. So they will then identify where maths is happening within their workplace. They will be able to video that and then tell the actual learning coach the maths that's been embedded and what type of maths is being used, rather than us as so-called specialists saying to them, right, okay, you know, you did this type of maths today in that. We actually want to try and flip it so that we want them to identify the actual maths that's happening rather than us telling them. And I'll go on and talk to you in a minute about how we've had to basically start again from scratch. We're now looking at the warehousing sector. So examples of maths embedding could be looking at the turning circle of a forklift truck, which would obviously then be working out the circumference of a circle in maths terms, working out the volume of a lorry and how many pallets of stock can be loaded safely. So again, that's more maths that they'll be using. So where are we now? So our initial plan was to work with apprentices in the health and social care sector, because this is our largest sector for our apprenticeship programs. We had the buy-in from a large care provider. We had all of the apprentices lined up, ready to go. We had everything in place. We'd identified what we was going to video, how we was going to do it. And as with everyone else, COVID hit. So just before we were about to start, the care provider made a decision that they could no longer work with us. So basically, we'd spent 4 months working with the care sector and this employer, and then they pulled the plug just before we were about to begin. So we then had to look at another possible sector. So we've identified the warehousing and logistics as a new sector for our project. because we felt that this was an area where quite a lot of maths is involved within someone's sort of daily workload. So we're obviously not as far forward as a lot of people are within their projects, but we feel now that we've got a lot of specialists actually that in the warehousing sector. So our plan is to basically build a team using the employer as well as part of this project team. The learner will be part of the project team. We're learning coaches and obviously specialists from our company as well. So what we want to try and do is bring in people with different skill sets to help support us, because we feel if the employer's heavily involved in it, there's more chance of if we say to them, okay, you know, our learning coach isn't available, can you then do this video for us? Because not only is it going to help us, it will actually help them in the future, because they can then use those videos for any new apprentices they take on. They can use them as part of the teaching and learning on the embedding maths part of their apprenticeship. We're also going to use it for our own learning coaches, because again, it was a case of they were good at identifying it, but they weren't very good at logging it. And just over the last couple of days, I was just thinking about with the videos themselves, I want to use them as a TCHC learning tool. So when we get the videos produced, we're going to look to do voiceovers on the videos that actually identifies where the maths is through the video. So we will have a math specialist actually look at the video and then be able to identify where the maths is actually occurring. And this is going to help our learning coaches to then start to be able to identify a lot more as well, because you know they're sector specific specialists and they're really good at you know, making sure someone uses a forklift truck correctly, packs things correctly, picks things correctly. But the functional skills side of it, some of them, I won't say they don't have any interest. I think it's because they're not comfortable and confident in the area, that they don't tend to do as much embedding as they potentially should. So we've actually had to come up with a new timeline. So we've identified 2 apprentices to participate in the project, and I've arranged training for the learning coach. We're going to invite the employer to a meeting with us to discuss the project and the required participation by themselves and the apprentice. So we're going to actually make it part of the learner's apprenticeship program as well. We're going to be looking to produce trial videos, which will be checked for suitability by the project management team. That's myself and Nicole, just to make sure that there's no safeguarding issues, there's no GDPR issues. And then from February, March onwards, we're then going to start producing the master copies of the videos, which we're then going to use for teaching and learning. We'll then follow that up with gathering some evidence of effectiveness from the apprentice, employer, and the learning coach. And then we'll obviously use that to we'll collate all that information gathered then to sort of produce the final project report in June 2021. So as I was saying, you know, we're not as far, unfortunately, we're not as far forward as everyone else is, but we feel comfortable now that we're working in a sector where we are going to meet obviously the deadlines that's required. So sorry I haven't got anything else to share on exactly what we've done. But you know, I'll say if anyone's got any questions about anything or any ideas on things that we can actually incorporate into our project, you know, it'd be much appreciated.
Thanks, Kim. Just before people do ask any questions, I think it's worth saying, Kim, one, you shouldn't apologize for having less. I think there's been at least 3 quite large setbacks for you guys.
Yeah.
Both, you know, not just I know you put it very much as then COVID hit, but actually you kind of got around that to start with a couple of care homes, didn't you?
We did, yeah. It's the
then
second
they had a
lockdown.
restructuring, and then they said yes, and then, you know, it went on and on and on, and then
it was the second lockdown.
They decided against it that time, and so I think your determination to continue and to find new strands with which you could work with is very much worth lauding there. So don't feel that you're behind. I think that whole production of a new timeline means actually you're now on track. You just have a different timeline to perhaps a few others, but you are back on track, as it were. That's how I see it.
Yeah, there's plenty of time left in the project. If anybody feels they're a little bit behind where they would like to be, you know, we've got through till July to finish this thing off, so there's plenty of time to catch up.
Thanks, David. That was one of the reasons why we came up with the second timeline, to actually sort of reset rather than feeling you behind all the time.
And that's the purpose of this interim event, is to sort of take stock of where you are and reset if necessary.
I feel better now.
Anyone got any questions for Kim? He's hoping there, like you say. Okay, thanks so much, Kim. If anyone else has got any questions, then we'll feed them round to you if I can't deal with them. So with no further ado, as they say, we are almost ourselves back on track. Can I hand over, Jamie, are you going to do it for yourself?
Yeah, Paul, I'll do it.
Okay. Has Jamie got the permission to share, Gail?
I've got the button for screen share. Shall I just press it?
Just go for it.
Yeah.
Okay. Just while Jamie's loading that out, well, he'll tell you himself in a minute, but it's project-based and outdoor-based. There we go.
Is that on everyone's screen?
It is indeed.
Yeah.
Right, okay. Shall I just start, Paul?
You go for it.
Yeah. So yeah, our project all around maths and English is that we cover following a break, obviously COVID, following months away from education, but also around getting them prepared to start setting their targets again, their own targets. So recovery curriculum, just a little bit about our sort of pathway at the minute, is following a break from education. They're going to come back, or the idea was we don't want to be putting too much pressure on them when they come back. So we ended up going down a route of a little bit of an easier, sort of less focus on deadlines and pressures and exams and all that sort of thing, tests, functional skills tests, etc., in the hope that it would be better for their well-being, and also just better during anxious and uncertain times where they can kind of come to Springboard and find that they can learn the maths and English in like embedded classes where they're out and about and things as well, and not just solely based in the classroom, just as a little bit of a breather from sitting down and doing more sort of strenuous things like the writing in the English and working out some of the harder maths. So the aim of the research for us was to improve their engagement, like I say, through more learner-led activities, projects and outdoor activities as well. We're doing this across all of our sites, but the research notes, Paul, as you know, that I've been sending to you, have been through the bases at Jarrow and Hartlepool in particular. So those are the ones that the project really focuses on. We've got a couple of learners from each one of them to kind of focus on their journey. And it's just all about sort of their progression as they ease back into education following the first lockdown, and eventually getting them ready to get back into well, maths and English away from the embedded as well. So that in mind, what we have been doing quite well in this recovery curriculum as we've returned is that we've found that they've taken an interest in the activities that they're doing. The shy ones have kind of come out of their shells a little bit, taking part in projects, but it's not always through like the way you expect it to be. So for instance, at Hartlepool, one of the projects was around pricing up either laser quest or football or some sort of outdoor activity that they could do away from Springboard. And not everyone likes football and laser quest and things, so they ended up choosing football. But one of the girls who didn't want to play ended up becoming the referee in the game. So it's about like adapting, and it's not just us that's adapting. It was like her idea to do that. So they come out their shells when they start mixing with other people and seeing them on a regular basis, to the point when they can start engaging in the activity in their own way, not just like the way we're trying to encourage them to. So it is flexible, and it's kind of got to be as well, obviously, with, I mean, you'll see what hasn't gone well at the bottom there with COVID and some people missing certain parts of activities or even a week at times. It's got to be flexible. So if they miss anything, what we have found is that the flexible nature of it is because there's no exam pressures or anything like that at the moment, and we're not focusing on that, and we're not really focusing as much on the target setting as much yet. It's more laid back, and it means that if they do miss something, they can easier catch up. What we've found as a sort of an added bonus is that staff, like, while we normally work well anyway, we're actually working better as a team on this as well, because having the embedded sessions where the maths and English are in with the vocational tutors to teach these kids who are seeing a little bit more of, that's working quite well for the classroom management, the running of activities, and just working together. Because we see them on multiple days, so for example, the classic Jarrow will come in for the main part of the session on a Tuesday, and then on Wednesday they'll be in for a joint taught session with myself and one of the vocational tutors. We end up getting to know them a lot faster as well, and I think that makes it a little bit more easier. It definitely makes it easier because you end up getting to know them to a point when you know who you can have a little bit banter with them. There's no pressure to kind of shove maths and English down their throats and things like that. So it's a lot more laid back. It's a lot more friendlier atmosphere. The kids are more at ease, and I think that's definitely helped. So if you look at what's not really gone so well in this, originally, Paul, as you know, I had adapting to COVID as one of the things that was actually a negative, but you ended up explaining that it was actually a positive, in the sense that because it's such a flexible sort of program and it's tailored around their needs and their well-being coming back in education, that we've actually kind of adapted as much as possible. There's certain activities that we haven't been able to do. So one of the group tasks was to put together a shopping list for some for cooking, and then with COVID and restrictions, our kitchen's particularly small, so we couldn't end up doing certain activities. So instead, what we did was we just opened it up to sort of an activity session where they decide what they want to do instead. So adapting to that, some of the examples of the work that they have done, mixing in the written part and the activities themselves. This is the football. In the end, they chose the football instead of the laser quest. So I don't know if you can really see what they've written there, but just in case you can't, they had to work out for the maths side of it, how much it would be per person, including food and drink and things like that as well, how much they would need to bring, whether or not they would get a better deal if the group booked a few games at a time if they were doing laser quest. And also they looked at multiple different ones. So there was laser quest, there was Quasar, and there was another one as well where they had to choose the best one for, well, the cheapest one, and the one everyone wanted to do. And there's a few pictures there of the people taking part. You've got the girl in the white in the top picture. She was the referee. So you've got a few of the lads there playing football and just getting them out and about. It's still, obviously, with the maths and English part that they've written, this all comes before, and then they've done the activity themselves, and then they've done a little bit of a write-up as well, sort of a review of to get the English in there as well. So they are doing maths and English. It just doesn't feel as sort of pressurized and intense because they've got that sort of reward in the middle of the workings out, and in the middle of the reviewing their activity, they've got something to look forward to. Other activities that we've done, I took part in some of these as well with the Jarrow lot. So we went to Herrington Country Park. We did that just for a walk about, feed the swans and that. It was all about, this part of the module was all about exercise and health and well-being, physical as well as mental. We did a little bit orienteering and map reading at Chopwell Woods as well. Again, just getting them out and about. And what our plan is to continue doing these sort of outdoor activities, but ease them into a little bit more of an intense schedule as time goes on. So that brings me to basically the next steps in it. But before I go through that, I'll just recap the points I've made. So what we've found is that the engagement, because there's sort of like a reward in either at the end of a module or in the middle at times, the more engaged, the more they're participating more, they're talking to each other because they see more of each other as well. But also, if they do miss something, they can still get engaged when they return. And they'll have had people missing things due to COVID. And I think it's more anxieties at times as well. They've chosen to isolate. Obviously, they need to isolate when sometimes that's been an issue. And then they've come back, they've picked up where they've left off. Teamwork between the staff was an unexpected bonus, but it was a good one. And getting to know the learners quicker was good. So the curriculum changes and the setting targets is really the next steps. We want to look at how we can kind of make it still have it enjoyable and engaging and outdoor, but also easing them back in now to the point when they can focus a little bit more on the English and the maths. So with that in mind, we've got to start thinking about how we can set the targets between now and the summer. So the plan is for the next steps, setting targets for each individual one. What we're going to do is, you'll see in future reports, we're going to have an in-depth report into one learner from Jarrow and one from Hartlepool, and look at their journey as a whole, where they started, how they got on, and then where they are at the end. So the plan is to report, focus on those two learners, but also to summarise as a whole how the journey's kind of gone, not just for them, but for staff as well. And that's basically our sort of project as it is at the moment. But if you've got any questions, I'll do my best to answer them.
Thank you, Jamie.
Can I ask a question, Paul?
Go for it, Kim.
Yeah, Jamie, I'm not sure if I missed it at all. Are you doing any online delivery with these learners at the moment?
What we've got for these ones is we do have the online delivery through, we're using Google Classrooms, but also Smart VLE as well, Smart Assessor as well. The Google Classrooms is something, I'll be honest, I've had to get used to as well. So I'm still I'm learning, but I'm kind of trying to stay one step ahead of them. So if they do miss, what I tend to do with these ones, because we see them more often, we see them twice a week at times. So what I'm doing with them, if they do miss something, they can catch up through Google Classrooms. So we're using that as a facility to kind of put the work up online, but also if they've got any questions, they can, let's say they've got trouble with the internet at home, or they've not got the capacity to do it at home, we offer them to come in, and even if we're busy in another session, teaching in another session, they can come and use the computers because the work's all going to be online with the instructions and things like that. Yeah. They do have to work from home for whatever reason, they can do it.
Yeah. So are the activity sessions better attended than the online ones?
Well, it's better attendance overall, really. What it is, like I say, the engagement's a lot better. They do seem to be missing fewer classes. I mean, teaching maths and English discreetly as well, I can say that obviously attendance is hit and miss at times in those classes. But what I found with this one is, unless it's to do with anxiety, which I can understand, or to do with having to isolate. The attendance is generally quite good, even in the written sessions as well. But yes, when it comes to the activities as well, you'll always get more people turn up.
Yeah. I think you've got to have this blended approach to it. Yeah. Thank you, Jamie.
No bother.
Yeah, I'll just add actually to what Jamie said. I think if you look at the approach in general, and I've been very generalistic here, that whole, looking at the affective domain, looking at the emotional state of the learners in order to then access the cognitive, it's a really good example of that, I think.
Well, that's the thing as well. We don't want to be too, with everything that's gone on, anxiety is going to be more common in these kids as well.
Yeah.
To kind of work around that. And I think to throw them, if we had to come back after a few months away and then just started intensely teaching maths and English and all their vocational bits, without trying to blend it all together, it would have been tragic in the end. But no, this has kind of eased them back into it, and they're aware exactly of where they are at the moment on the journey as well. They're aware that in a few weeks' time, well, next year now more or less, that they're gonna end up getting moved into their discrete classes as time goes on, and more is going to be expected of them. But at least they're kind of more prepared for that as well.
Yeah. Thank you, Jamie. Anyone else got any other questions? I'm kind of aware of the time. If you want to stop sharing, Jamie, and we will pass over to our Channa, who's going to show us what she's been doing.
Thank you, Paul.
Just while she's loading up and sharing her screen, I'm sure she'll describe this in a minute. They've been looking at it with SEND students.
Thank you, Paul. I work in Cressy College. It's an SEN college with a multi-site of age 5 to 19. And I'm a maths coordinator for the FE sector. And first, I want to thank Paul that he's been patiently bearing my way of dealing with him, and he's been very encouraging by sending emails. Thank you, Paul, for this opportunity, and you've been a great mentor for me.
You're welcome.
We are having our senior teacher who's called Bryony as the deputy and me as the lead. And of course, all the activities that we are managing are pertaining only to maths lessons. Keeping the rationale in mind, we have got 3 offsites, but because of COVID restrictions, I am working with one of them, and there are 13 students. All of them are 16 plus. The name of the offsite is Deep Dean, and we are having problems with getting place. So we are trying our best to accommodate students with 4 in 1 classroom, and it is challenging because they are one-to-one, and 4 in a classroom is making things difficult, but still we are able to work out on our project. And the main aim is helping them. The objective of the project is embedding maths, so helping them to link it to their outside world so that they can have a link with their vocational qualification which they are doing. This is the way that we deal, and I've put some pictures. And in the center, we had a paramedic who came to talk to Tarali, and Tarali and Shavana are 2 main students whom I'm going to focus at the end of my project, where I will give a better view of how they have excelled through the theme of embedding maths. And we had the opportunity of the mayor of Croydon, here the lady is, and she attended our session, and we had students delivering their maths lesson and connecting it through the embedding method. These are the 2 main students, Shavana and Tarali. Paul guided me excellently to have reflective diaries, and we have 10 staff at present from Deep Dean who are working on reflective diaries. So my intention was that I should have some questions for autumn term 2, autumn term 1. But by the time we got the diaries, we have landed autumn term 2, where staff have involved. But the method that I used was I had an in house training which was based on differentiation. So it was so important for staff to know how they're going to use the reflective diaries. So, keeping differentiation as the training concept, first we delivered this training to the staff and made them know that this term, how they're going to connect differentiation through their lessons and how they'll embed maths by making students know few things that the teachers want from their teaching. So, I've got few examples where staff have reflected on how they use two core strategies for differentiating instructions. It was very nice. Every Friday, we do get an hour. Our offsite comes back at 12:30. And this is the time on Friday that we can train and we can discuss about our project. And few examples I've put here, how staff have reflected how they are embedding maths and how students are giving them their ideas and how they want to work on it. I can just give you an example. uh, Tarali is enrolled now for a bricklaying course at East Surrey College, and the way he is connecting maths, our first topic for our scheme of learning was numbers, and he's using numbers as well as measurement and connecting it to how he's laying bricks and how he can use maths there. I've sent a detailed report to Paul. Apart from this, I thought, when I began the project, that I should have some staff survey, and questionpro.com is free, and I like the way I got to use, and you can see that 10 have completed out of the 13, 14 staff we have, and the questions were simple. Some examples here are you willing to be part of this project as a staff member? And then I got the response there. And I've used few questions here to show you all that even you can use this and it will be helpful, that staff will get an idea. Has the project lead informed you about your role in the project and they had to rank it? How satisfied are you with the OTLA Maths Research Project, which Deep Dean has been funded for 2020 and 21? How willing are you to manage day-to-day project activities? Which teaching idea do you select? So before I did this, I had a presentation where I explained them what will the project involve. And I gave them ideas how they can bring their lesson into a positive way. And those questions were based on this particular survey that I did. So the next milestone that I'm thinking is I've got the other two sites where I have to visit and get them involved and see how they can embed maths into this project and how students can gain from it. So out of the three sites, I have only worked on one of them, and I'm happy that I'm getting a lot of feedback from Paul, and he keeps telling me that how reflective diaries can be helpful and how surveys has helped me. So I think the next milestone can only be done under Paul's guidance, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Achaya. Let's have a look. How are we doing for time?
Paul, I'm just going to end the slide. Just give me a minute for this.
That's all right. Anyone got any questions? I will, oh, sorry, it's just the screen jumping around. I would add, I think, and Jamie picked it up in his actually as an unexpected bonus, if you like, of doing this project. And I think, Achana, the same can be said for yours, is that staff collaboration. You expect staff to collaborate, they're going to do so anyway, but that sort of increased level that has been noticed in both those projects. Not to say it hasn't in yours, Kim, actually, but it's not something I'm particularly aware of. That, you know, you will often get these little additional things, the little additional wins that not only will that additional staff collaboration follow now, but that will follow for years to come while those staff are still employed by the same place. You know, those kind of relationship barriers, if you like, are broken down. They will continue, one would hope, to have those better relationships for the benefit of everybody afterwards. So it's really, really important with all the projects, I think, to keep your eye on those little additional wins. Just because it's not your key focus doesn't mean that it's not worth making a good note of it. You know, there are other things that you will pick up that are bonuses.
I think that's where your idea of the reflective diaries comes in as well. It's sometimes capturing those, what at the time seem like little changes or changes of direction, or that thought that you've had or something that occurs, and capturing that's really important, because you won't remember down the line. When you're writing up and you're pulling it all together next year, in 2021, you won't necessarily remember all those little things that will make life much easier for you right up if you've recorded them along the way.
More
Great
so,
projects though, really fascinating, really interesting.